And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a game or a deck of cards that is actually two games. We're going to look at Hanabi and Ikebana, which is a, believe it or not, a French game published in France, and is both a co-op game, Hanabi, and a competitive game, Ikebana, one in which players are going to be using cards in order to try and complete different sets together without knowing what's in their own hands, but knowing what's in their fellow players' hands. And the other is a game where you're going to be paying victory points in order to pass on taking cards in order to try and complete a set of cards which will get you the most points. So real quick, why don't we go over the gameplay of both of these games. I'll show you how they work, I'll show you the components, and then we'll come back here and I'll sum up with my thoughts. So first, let's take a look at Hanabi. These two games are both going to be played with the same deck of cards, and the deck of cards is going to be 5 different suits, each with numbers 1 through 4 in it. Now, it's important to note, though, that there's a different layout of the cards. There are 3 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s, 2 4s, and 1 5 in every suit. And Hanabi is going to be a cooperative game, in which each player is going to have a hand of cards, and they are going to know most of the information about all of the cards in everybody's hands. So, for example, everyone would have their hand of cards. Let's say we're playing a 4-player game. Everyone would have 4 cards. So we would deal out the cards, face down, and everyone would pick up their hand. Now, the difference is that when they pick up their hand, they're going to pick it up with the backs of the cards facing themselves. So I would hold these cards like this so that I can't see them, but everybody else at the table can. So I'm going to know what 3 of the players' cards are in this case, but I'm not going to know my own. And on a player's turn, they can do one of 3 specific actions. They can either give information to one other player, they can play a card from their hand, or they can discard a card. Now, before we go into that, why don't we go into what the goal is? The goal is to make 5 individual stacks of cards, each with the numbers 1 through 5 in each specific suit. So I would want 1 through 5 of blue in this stack, or in this stack I would want 1 through 5 of yellow. And they have to be in order, so it has to be 1 first, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. Now you'll note, since there are 3 1s, the 1s are relatively easy to get. The 2s and 3s and 4s are a little less likely, and then there's only 1 5 of each suit in the deck, so it's harder to get the 5s. Now, since I have my hand of cards and I don't know what's in it, it's very hard for me to play a card. But on a player's turn, they can do, like I said, one of several things. The first would be to give information to a player. And they're going to be able to give information using these chips. Now, you'll note there are 8 blue chips in this box here. And that means that you can give 8 suggestions at the start of the game, 1 per turn, and when you do give a suggestion, you're going to take a chip out of this box and give information to one player. So, the types of information I can give are one of 2 things. I can either give information about a number or information about a color of cards in a player's hands. So as an example, I could say, let's say I want to give information to say that there are 1s in this player's hand. I could not simply say that this card is a 1. I would have to give all of the information about all of the 1s in the hand. So I have to say these 2 cards are 1. Now, since this is my hand, the player would say these 2 cards are 1s, and I would then, not being able to see my hand, try and remember that these 2 cards here are the 1s in my hand. Alternatively, in giving information, they could give information about a color. They could say, for example, these 2 cards are red, or this card is blue, but they could not say this card is red. They would have to tell me about both of the red cards in my hand. So that's giving information. The second option on your turn is that you want to discard a card. So let's say I had some information about my hand. I know I have a bunch of 1s, and somehow I've learned that this is a yellow 1, and somebody's already played a yellow 1 to the table. I don't need a yellow 1, so I could discard this card from my hand into a discard pile, just throwing it away, and that would allow me to take one of these chips and put it back into the box so that I can give more information out later. The third option on a player's turn, if they were to discard a card, they would draw 1, adding it to their hand. Now the third option on a player's turn is to play a card. So let's say that through some information I've learned that this card is a 1 and no 1s are on the table now. And I decide I'm going to play this card. That's great, I play it to the table, and as long as it's a playable card, meaning at the beginning of the game it's a 1, or once a 1 has been played, now the 2 would be a viable play here, the blue 2, you're okay. But if you play a card that can't be played, say for example I were to try and play this 5 out to the table without the 1, 2, 3, 4, I would cause a red chip to be placed into the box, and that is the first error being made. You get 3 errors in the game, and by the time the third error has happened, you all lose, and at that point, you are going to score the game. And you're going to see how many points you have earned. Now, losing is losing. Either you get all the cards on the table or you don't, but they have a scoring system to tell you how well you've done. Essentially, if you get like 1 to 5 points, you've done terribly, and if you get somewhere around 20, you've done very well. If you get all the way to 25, you obviously won the game. So you'll keep playing, giving hints, and kind of taking hits if you play improperly until either the game ends through this manner or you manage to get all 5 stacks of cards. Ikebana is an entirely different game altogether. So in the game of Ikebana, you're not playing cooperatively anymore. You're using the same deck of cards in order to try and make the best hand. In order to do this, each player is going to start with 6 prestige points. So you would have 6 of these yellow tokens, and you're going to be using these to pass on cards as you flip them over. So on your turn, you're going to flip a card, and you're going to decide if you want to keep it. So this is the 1 red. Well, I may not want to start with a 1, so I would pay 1 prestige point to the player to my left in order to get rid of this card, and it would go into my discard pile. Now, after that, I would flip another card, and I have the 2 of red. Well, maybe I'll decide to keep the 2, or maybe I won't. Let's say I don't. I would pay 2 points, not to the player to my left, but to the player to their left in order to get rid of this card, and give those to that player, and this would go on top of my discard pile. And then I would flip another card, and it's the 4 of blue. Let's say I'm happy with that one, and I'm going to keep it in front of me. And now it would go to the next player, and they would flip a card, and let's say they don't want the 1 of black, they would pay 1 point to the person to their left. And they would go to the next card, and it's the 1, and they would pay another 2 points to the person to that person's left. And a third card, let's say they want to keep the 3 of blue, placing it in their area. And it's going to go around the table in this manner until each player has accumulated 5 cards in front of them. Now the point of the game is to make different types of hands. You're going to want 2s of a kind, 3s of a kind, 4 of a kind, a low run of 4 being a 1, 2, 3, 4, or a high run of 4 being a 2, 3, 4, 5. You can also get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is worth even more points. Additionally, you're going to be trying to collect cards of either 2 colors, exactly 2 colors, so I would want, for example, all red or blue cards, all 1 color, so all red cards, or 1 of each color, so a yellow, a red, a blue, a black, and I believe the 5th color is green. And so those are going to give you multipliers, and at the end of a round you're going to score points based on what hand you had and what multipliers you had. The worst hand is 2 of a kind, then 3, then 4, then 5 of a kind, and then the runs, either a low, high, or complete run, are worth the most points. The multipliers, 2 colors will give you a ×2 multiplier for your score. Multicolor will give you a 3 times multiplier for your score, and having all of 1 color of card will give you a 4 times multiplier for your score. After you finish a round, you're going to get paid out in these chips, which will be able to be used for bypassing cards in later rounds, and you're going to go for a certain amount of rounds. After you play all of those rounds, say you want to play 1 per person, you're going to go, and whoever has the highest amount of victory points at the end of those rounds is going to be the winner. And there you see the gameplay of both Hanabi and Ikebana. So let's start with my thoughts on Hanabi first. This is a great co-op game. It has a completely different feel from anything else that I've played. It needs very few components, and is just all around a really fun time to play. You may think, well, you start with those 8 hints at the beginning, and that seems like more than enough information to get to players to figure out what cards they need to play. And you couldn't be more wrong. It seems like a great wealth of information at the beginning, but those chips dwindle quickly, and soon you're forced into a situation where you may not know anything about what's in your hand, and you're forced to discard cards. Now this can be really bad, because if you discard a 5, you've immediately prevented yourself from finishing one of the piles, as there's only 1 of each 5 in the game. So it creates a nice sense of urgency of keeping those correct cards, a nice sense of cooperativeness in trying to make sure everybody knows what they need, but at the same time a hard sense of, or a sense of difficulty, because you're not able to tell everybody everything you'd like to let them know. Now Ikebana is a little bit different for me. I don't really enjoy Ikebana as much. Sure, it's a decent game. You're passing on cards as they come up. Paying the victory points is kind of a penalty for passing on too many cards, but if you're lucky enough, you're going to win the game just on getting the right cards flipped, and so that's a little bit of a negative for me. Now, this is a hard game to come by right now. Although Hanabi is going to be reprinted soon and in English, Ikebana won't be included with that, which simply means you need to get more chips. But anyhow, if you need a suggestion for a really good game system which allows you to play 2 really different types of games, definitely check out Hanabi and Ikebana, one of my favorite new games as of recent.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.